To everyone watching this video, I am sorry, I should not be calling the Novelist Scrap Launchers trash, and instead they can be good when in the right hands. Now the reason why I'm issuing this apology is that I used to think that the Scrap Launchers are absolute rubbish and call them crap launcher instead, but then Flying Tackle, a veteran player of the Total War Warhammer trilogy, has sent me a replay showing that even the Scrap Launchers can do some ridiculous damage despite not being the best artillery of the Ogre Kingdoms. Now, for the army builds here, other than the double Scrap Launchers, we have a front line of Novelers backed up by some Noveler Trappers, and then another unit of Lead Belchers, plus a bunch of armored monstrous cavalry, one fan cavalry with great weapons, 2 of them in fact, supported by Saber-Tusk packs on the far side over there, as well as a single Sky Striders, the regiment of renowned crushers. As for the character support, we have a Butcher of the Great Maul coming in with only Troll Guts, and then a Tyrant leading the way, fighting against Aerocrastic's High Elf army, yet another Total Warhammer veteran. For the army builds here, Aerocrastic is going for a line of spears backed up by a couple of Phoenix Guards, and then quite a few archers here, providing a lot of fire support. And then for the further back defenses, we have spears mixed in with silver helms, and that's about it for the main army there. Single entities, we have Frostheart Phoenix, Outlive Anar, and also a Metal Mage. This is where the archers come in, because the Metal Mage, having the Plague of Rust, can significantly debuff the armored cavalry's armor and allow the archers to do a lot more damage to the monstrous cavalry. Anyways, that's it for the army builds. Now let's get the battle started and see what the Scrap Launchers can do. So in this game, Flying Tackle showed me that Noveler Scrap Launcher are not crap, and instead it just takes a little bit more work to make them very effective. Now, normally I regard them as a poor artillery because of the shot scattering, meaning that the shots often land short of their target or way overshooting, either landing in front or behind of its target. However, that means that you just need to adjust their targeting angle. Because the shots land in front and behind the targeting zone, if you shoot at a thinly deployed unit from the front, of course the projectiles will be landing short or overshooting. But if you're targeting a unit from the side, because of how the shots spread, the projectiles will still actually land within the unit. And with the Scrap Launchers being placed so far on the flanks, they actually get the angle they need to maximize the damage onto the High Elf infantry formations. We'll be going into fast forward here as we are in a bit of artillery skirmish phase where the spears got pounded by the Scrap Launchers, taking quite a bit of heavy damage, although there are still some missed shots. Still, damage is still very effective and already doing some substantial work on the High Elf staunch line of spears. The archers are trying to shoot at anything that get close, but a lot of the heavy armor from the one-fan cavalry are just mitigating most of those non-armor piercing damage, while Aerocrastic going for a very cunning cycle charge here, already chipping away the health of the Novelers. In this particular High Elf build, there are simply no tools to deal with the Scrap Launchers, so all they can do is just sit there, hang in tight, and hopefully they can weather the storm of artillery bombardment. There are some Saber-Tusk pack trying to disrupt the archer line, but being caught on Phoenix Guard, they got rampaged and stuck in melee and quickly routed off. While in the front line, Tyrant is jumping on top of the spears who were already weakened by the Scrap Launchers, and he himself, having the Thunder Mace explosion ability, was able to blast away some of these spears even more. On the side there, Noveler is trying to push but was quickly routed by a combination of Silver Helms and the Frostheart Phoenix. One fan cavalry, no, these are Sky Striders, are coming in trying to trash these Silver Helms, but Silver Helms will try to escape from the engagement with their swift elven steed. Although the frostbite from the Sky Striders will be slowing them down just enough for the Sky Striders to catch up, so the Silver Guard will be moving up to slow them down. Over here, a real engagement going down right now as the Plague of Rust upgraded version dropping the armor on the one-fan cavalry down to a meager 30, allowing maximum damage from the anti-large spears and the charge of the Silver Helms, so the one-fan cavalry are quickly dropping despite the Troll Guts trying to sustain their hit points, especially when there's still archer fire cross-firing into the fray. In the front line though, the Phoenix Guard are taking some minor damage, actually quite noticeable now that there are some Lead Belchers shooting into the Phoenix Guard's ranks, and also the fire support from the Noveler Trappers as well. while nobler regular variants are pushing forward, trying to tie down all the high elf spears, and at the back, Sky Striders really not much to stop them right here, as they can push through any of the high elf infantry easily. Although they're quite overwhelmed right now with spears and cavalry in the fray, even the Frostheart Phoenix reducing their damage output with the aura there, the Blizzard aura, reducing their attack and weapon damage, so their damage isn't as impressive as usual. Now over here in front, one of the Phoenix Guard is routed by a combination of Nobbler's Crossfire and also a bit of Plague of Rust. A little bit of final transmutation was attempted, but it seems that it mostly missed, as the spell was not directly clicked onto the Sky Striders and was instead targeting a certain fixed area. This expensive spell was mostly wasted and definitely a misplay from Aerocrastic, though honestly it might just be the Warhammer 3 jank. Sometimes I feel like Game 3's targeting is just less responsive and I'm actually missing more targeting, doing more misclicks than I did when I was playing Game 2. Anyways, back to the game. The archers are being slowly whittled down by a combination of lead belchers and nobbler fire, while there's still one secured archer at the back, though slightly compromised by nobblers, but they should be holding with martial prowess buffing them. On the far side, there's still one full health Mournfang cavalry, or almost full health, taking some minor chip damage only, as the Scraplaunchers are continuously pounding the poor high elf infantry. Far back, the Sky Striders are now slowly topping up with the Troll Guts, and Alifanar is still trying his best to expand his ammo, getting some okay damage so far, not even 1,000 gold though, so I don't know if he's gonna pay for himself. He is a rather cheap lord though, so it is not exactly the highest bar. Anyways, another final transmutation will be going down onto a blob, this time targeting the Tyrant directly and actually catching another Mournfang. And with the Tyrant moving against the Sky Striders, unfortunately the Sky Striders also got affected by the spell, upgraded this time, doing maximum damage unlike the last spell. Also, Phoenix Guard moving in to intercept the Mournfang cavalry, but unfortunately they're just a little too fast for the infantry to catch up on. The lead belchers are still firing, doing some pretty good damage so far, considering the whole time they're being poked at by Alif and Nar. Though right now the High Elf Lord is tied down in melee and can't actually shoot. On the far side, the mobility advantage of the ogres are rather substantial here, chasing down the spears, although one tattered unit of Silver Helms is now surrounding the Nobbler Scraplaunchers, doing some pretty good damage, and unfortunately for the Ogre Kingdoms, the Tyrant is dead. So there's a major leadership impact on the Ogre army, but at least the Butchers survived to provide that encourage aura to surrounding troops and provide that crucial healing. On the far side, the archers are trying their best to chip down the health of the Mournfang cavalry, and with not the most impressive armor at 90 and also being hit by Plague of Rust, they will be taking some noticeable damage throughout the engagement, especially when charged by their Silver Helms at the back. The Nobbler Scraplaunchers decided it is time to stop shooting and get things personal. Being a size of a massive monstrous chariot, it is slamming straight into the archers' lines, while the Sky Striders are running down the rest of the spears, who are rather tattered. Over here, the lead belchers are still firing, but Alifanar is returning fire, and it is only a matter of time for him to finish off the lead belchers. We'll be going into fast forward once more, as we are entering a little bit of a slow phase right now. Archers shooting at the Sky Striders, trying to work him down, while the Nobbler Scraplaunchers cycle charging to disrupt the archer fire of the High Elves. Another final transmutation onto the Sky Striders, but another Troll Guts mitigating the spell damage. So quite unfortunate for the High Elves here, unable to finish off the spellcaster. The Tyrant is actually less of a concern because you can finish him off with a bit of cycle charge from the Frostheart Phoenix, while the Butcher, being kept saved, was able to constantly heal back up all those damage dealt to the Ogre Kingdoms. This is pretty much the only thing holding the Ogres together right now. Right now the balance of power is actually noticeably favorable for the High Elves. As the archers still have quite a bit of ammo left, Alifanar is still rather healthy. The thing is that he has ran out of ammo and is forced to go into melee combat, and he's not exactly the greatest duelist in terms of fighting prowess. So honestly, things are not looking great for the High Elves now that the balance of power is slowly shifting back into the middle. and the Ogre Kingdoms have healing, while the High Elves do not. At the back there, the Scrap Launcher is tied down by a bunch of Silver Helms, and the Spears slowly whittling away its health, but having AT armor means that it was still able to survive this onslaught for quite a while, buying enough time for the Sky Striders to just go straight in, slamming down all these poor Spearmen, and the Archers also got hit. Another final transmutation drops down onto the Sky Striders, but the Scrap Launcher has managed to move out of the way, so it is not targeted by the spells. Only the Sky Strider is affected, and they still have quite a bit of fighting power left. And the Scrap Launchers was able to run down even more High Elves. At the back there, Nobler Trappers are now being tied down by the Mage of Metal, with some spears fighting against them as well. Alivanar dueling the Butcher, and he is not having the greatest time for sure. He is a meager High Elf archer, while his opponent is a towering Hulk of Flesh, a Butcher of the Ogres. Still, 67 melee attack and 57 melee defense, all thanks to martial prowess, is not too shabby. The Butcher only have 40 attack and defense, but he does have great weapon strength, and every time he slams his hits onto Alivanar, Alivanar's meager HP pool will be taking a heavy hit. At the back there, the Archers have nothing to protect them. The Silver Helms are trying their best to tie down the Sky Striders so that the Archers can shoot a few more volleys into the beast, but at this point most of the High Elf units are on the run. And that means all that's left on the field are pretty much the single entities here, as the last of the Phoenix Guard will be run down, flattened by the Nobler Scrap Launcher being routed away. Nobler Scrap Launcher will continue to cycle charge as the Butcher is still barely holding on with another Troll Guts topping up his hit points. Sure, the single entities might just be a little more elite on the High Elves end, but the healing is simply too much, especially with all the chaff support available. Another charge onto the Archers, and that is the end for that one ranged missile unit. The other Archer will also then be targeted by a sandwiching charge from both Sky Striders and perhaps the Nobler Scrap Launchers. Oh no, the Scrap Launchers are switching back to run down Alivanar, who has his back turned against the Scrap Launchers as he is busy fighting the Butcher of Great Maul. And with that charge, he will be knocked over, allowing the Nobler Trappers to just run in and start doing some damage with the bonus versus infantry. Though it seems the Nobblers decides to fight the tattered Phoenix Guards instead. Should do some pretty good damage while Alivanar is getting pummeled by the Butcher. Now the Scrap Launcher actually received a massacre, providing a bit of a terror status to the unit, and also just giving a decent damage boost, providing 25% more weapon damage. The last Phoenix Guards routed and the High Elf heroes are truly alone. Another Plague of Rust going down onto the Sky Striders, but from 120 armor down to 90 armor, that is actually not that significant. You only do marginally more damage due to how the armor damage reduction works. We'll go into fast forward here as the single entities of the High Elves are being surrounded and beaten down by the Butcher, the Sky Striders, who do have some elite melee stats, and then the cycle charging of the Scrap Launchers will be finishing the game as Alivanar has fallen in combat, concluding the battle with a really close Ogre victory. GG to both players, and now let's quickly wrap up the game. The carry for the Ogre Kingdoms are still the Sky Striders here, 3.5k worth of damage value. With all the healing and their solid melee stats, armor piercing, and high mass, they just dominates the battlefield. However, the Nobler Scrap Launcher did carry their own weight, one of them not quite earning back the value, but the other one, 1,600 gold worth of damage value. Not only was it able to do some massive damage with the bombardment, they were also able to charge into melee in the late game, running down Phoenix Guards and cycle charging characters. With the solid mass of the Scrap Launcher, the Ogre Artillery, one great thing about them is that even if they run out of ammo, they still have enough mass and weapon strength to do some good damage in late game. For the rest of the army here, they didn't quite earn back their own worth, other than the Trappers being a solid cost-effective chaff. The others not so much, mostly just get worn down by the staunch line of spears, including the Monfang Cavalry. It's just that the Butcher was really crucial in dropping all those Troll Guts, keeping the balance of power for the Ogre Kingdoms high enough to just drag it out into the late game and eventually outlast the High Elves, who do not have any healing this time, as they opt for a Mage of Metal there. You can see that with the final transmutation, it actually earned back a lot of value, 2k worth of damage value. The rest of the army also did some pretty solid damage overall, though unfortunately the infantry got pounded hard by the scrap launcher artillery, so not doing too much work here. And then the missiles were being compromised by the Sky Striders and Mournfang cavalry, so one of them did well, the others not so much. Alivanar did some pretty solid damage overall, but still not able to carry the game with the oppressive healing from the Ogre Kingdoms. The Silverhelm's charge damage synergized really well with the Plague of Ruts spam, doing significant damage to Mournfang cavalry that got debuffed in terms of armor, but still, lacking healing of their own, the High Elves just do not have enough endurance to outlast the Ogre Kingdoms. And yeah, that's it for today's battle. I hope you all enjoy it, and if you want to see more Total War Warhammer multiplayer action, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.